Welcome to episode number 106 of the Marine Layer podcast. We welcome on Mariners reliever Gabe Speier for a conversation about some Mariners bullpen stories, his evolution within the Mariners pitching system, and the time he hit a home run in the minor leagues. We'll also discuss some of the miracle work Scott Servais did this offseason, keeping the team morale together and getting them ready for this 2024 season.
Here's your reminder before we start the show. Make sure to download our episodes if you're listening. Rate and review 5 stars. You're doing us a big favor if you do. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and then follow us on social media where you can check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. One run from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game at 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording here on Monday night, February 26th. The games have been rolling since we last recorded. Wow, what a lot of fun. What has been your favorite thing to come out here in the last couple of days?
I like seeing Cole Young take the ball the other way and almost leave the yard here on Monday. What did I say? Doesn't that guy have a chance to get up to the majors by the end of this year?
Yeah, he does. He does. And that swing, I will say, that thing is sweet in high definition. It is a crispy swing, and that not an easy swing to put as a left-hander, but he managed to do that. How storybook is it for Mitch? First at bat back. I mean, boom.
That was going to be my other one, but I figured you were going to take that one. Yeah, that's the easy one. Where you see Cole Young go the other way like that today. Again, it's one at bat in spring training. I'm not locking in the fact he'll play in the majors in 24, but I feel like despite it only being one spring training at bat, that take of mine is a little bit at least backed up today, as in the fact that like he's playing in big league games, he's getting in major league action. He looked pretty good doing it. That's all I'll say.
I have a couple of ingredients for a Cole Young debut in 2024. First of all, he pulls out a Vladdy minor league stretch where he hits 400. That'll be a good start. Second, the Mariners do not sign Matt Chapman and don't plug their third base hole as it currently stands. And 3, the third base hole looks like a hole once they reach the trade deadline /August/September. I didn't realize it this week, Dog. That made me a little nervous. Luis Urias has yet to throw a ball across the diamond because of his shoulder. Like,
that's not good.
No, that's not good. And we're sitting here trying to fantasize that the Mariners' third base option could actually be better than Matt Chapman as it's currently stated. And well, if Luis Urias can't throw a ball across the diamond, then that's not going to be the case. I'm sorry.
It sounded like it was pretty minor. All the injuries right now sound minor, which is why I don't think anybody should really be freaking out about any of these injuries right now. Like you saw people kind of lose their mind about the whole Matt Brash thing this weekend, which I guess for those who aren't informed, he has been delayed from throwing any bullpens for a few days. I think he has a minor arm thing and they're checking it out. That's about it.
Yeah.
Like this stuff happens in February all the time, but there were legit people quote tweeting that tweet when it happened. It's like, season's over.
Yeah, he said he felt a little banged up, which, okay. He threw 2 bullpens. He took the weekend off. Hopefully he feels better this week. As of right now, there is no update. How about something that's actually positive for a guy who literally couldn't get on the field early enough last season and struggled to get ramped up? Andres Munoz looks about as good as you can in February. I mean, this dude was hitting 101 on the backfield and said he feels amazing. How awesome is that?
Yeah, it's great. Considering 2 of your 3-headed monster pieces aren't throwing right now, or Gregory Santos, they said today as of Tuesday, just started ramping up his throwing program, or started throwing, I should say. Yeah, it's nice to see the final guy in Munoz look about as good as he's looked in an early February period. So great. Like we would expect Andres Munoz to look great anyway, but hearing good reports is never a bad thing.
Lastly, 5-star alarm Julio's not been in a lineup yet. He has some hand inflammation. So season's over.
Just like Brash. There's people saying season's over. Like Julio, people saying season's over. Even though Divish said today, like for those of you who want to take a deep breath, Julio was hitting in the cage today. He just didn't play in the game. It's almost like, wow, you don't want to actually make an injury worse in February, and one that's very minor, we should add.
Now, people have to ask if there's a correlation between playing too much basketball outside the facility and being injured. Gotta ask. I gotta say, so the video did come out today where they were doing a 3-point competition right behind Brock and Salk today. I'm gonna say there was a lot of misses on that hoop. You could tell they're not all basketball players.
Well, I was gonna say, who was the starting five that got named when we asked this question at the field earlier in the year? Well, I think Julio put himself in there, and he said Kirby, a couple of guys said Cal.
Yeah, Saucedo's going to be in there. Yeah.
Well, I think Sauce put himself in there, but
yeah, I don't think Sauce is getting left out of the starting lineup. He's not going to let anyone let that happen. I gotta say, I did see Brian Wu break out a couple of like nonchalant between the leg dribbles, and that just makes me think that like he'd be okay.
Yeah,
he became. It looked very natural. It didn't look like it was forced. It looked like he does this quite often.
Yeah, I'll take his word for it. And you know what? I think Sauce played basketball in high school, so we'll give him that one. I will say my final little storyline is, we tweeted it out today on Tuesday too, but like shout out our guy Reed Van Scooter. Guy gets in a big league game and just box score wise had the best outing of anybody today. Like 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, no runs, no walks. He gave up 1 hit. Like, that's great. I'm sure he'll start the year in Double-A, and we'll see where he ends up at the end of the year, but like he looked really good today.
Yeah, shout out our guy Reed. That's amazing to see. Amazing to see the young guys show out here early in spring training. Again, for a system that doesn't have very many major league ready guys, it's cool to see the guys a step below that continuing to progress, and especially again getting to watch them on network television quality cameras is just a treat, because once you go down to Everett and Arkansas, it is certainly not that. So we appreciate the opportunity to get to look at them in that sense. Another thing that came out this week, Lyle, just an awesome piece written by Ryan Divish that I think we just need to talk about here. He went a little bit more in depth on Scott Servais's offseason escapade around the Americas to visit his team leaders and sort of keep everyone at bay. I mean, what a job he did.
They pinpointed leaders of the team. They saw how the offseason was going. They saw how fans were receiving it all after all the 54% stuff too, obviously. And clearly there was a plan in the organization that said, okay, we have got to do some damage control here. And not just damage control. We've got to get everybody on the same page. So what did they do? They sat down. They picked out a handful of guys who they felt like, these are our team leaders. And we're not just going to go call them. We are going to meet in person. We're going to talk things out. We're going to explain what the process is behind all this, because we don't want questions behind closed doors with players saying, what are we doing? Why is this happening? Why is Gino getting traded away? Why is Kelnick getting traded away? Like, they sat down and said, this is what's going to happen. Bear with us. And now everybody not only seems like they're on the same page, people are fired up. Like we talked about on Friday, people are coming into this spring training being like, let's go. Everybody's fired up to work. Everybody's happy with, and in the end, with the moves that got made. And it seems like those meetings were pretty productive between the handful of guys that they picked out to meet with.
Scott made it a point to say they'd never had these kind of conversations before. And multiple of these team leaders said they'd never had a manager put that much effort in an off season to do this kind of thing. Like, let's not get it fooled. The optimism that is in this 2024 Mariners season does not happen without Scott Servais and the job he did this offseason. It does not happen. It does. What is the message at spring training right now if Scott Servais hadn't gotten on a plane and flown to the Dominican Republic and went fishing with Luis Castillo to go sit there and talk to his ace? Like, what happens if he's not telling him why they traded the guy he essentially came up to the big leagues with and has played with throughout pretty much his whole career in Gino Suarez, and Castillo sitting there like, what are we doing? But it's Scott's job to get on a plane again and go all the way to the DR to talk with Luis Castillo, to say, listen, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're up against. Here's how we're going to try and fix it. Here's the moves we're going to knock out. And this is a group effort as well, because Scott can talk all he wants, but Jerry and Justin need to come back behind him and deliver, and they certainly did. And another telling thing about this, the part of this story that stuck out the most is Scott made sure he wanted to hear every guy out individually. So he started with Cal, and then he wanted to do Ty and JP because they're both in the Seattle area. So Cal was on the phone, at least the first conversation was on the phone, and then Ty and JP were next. They were both working out a drive line. Yet Scott said, I need to talk to these guys individually, even though they're spending a lot of time together. I need to sit down with each one individually and get the individual person's opinion on this. And I mean, that's all relationship building. It could be so much different if it's the three of them sitting at a table together. But Scott's like, no. We got to do this individually and individually talk this out and individually get this mindset right between the two of us. And that's awesome. And I can't have enough praise. Like, how many managers in baseball want to put in that much effort with their roster in the offseason? Not many. And this job that Scott did this offseason could be the difference in like guys wanting to stay here and sign extensions. If like Scott's staying, wouldn't you want that guy as your manager? Like if you're Cal Raleigh and you want to sign an extension, you're like, I love that dude. I mean, look at the effort he did with all this chaos that's going around above us. He's like, trust me, guys, we got this.
Yeah, it certainly helps. And I know there's probably going to be people that heard you say what you just said. It's like, oh, well, Boris guy. Yeah, we know. We're not saying it's 100% certainty. We're not by any means saying that. But when you have a manager that you believe in and you know he believes in you, it makes a big difference. I guarantee you it means a lot to Cal Raleigh that Scott Servais sits him down and says, you are one of the most important players on this team. You're one of the leaders of this team. And what you have to say matters. Like that, like athletes are human beings. They are not, they're not droids or cyclones. They're not just programmed. No, these are human beings. And when you get told you matter like that, that's a big deal. And that meant a lot to Cal Raleigh. It meant a lot to all these guys that they met with. I think it was pretty cool that before he met with Luis that he went and saw Julio? I think it was after. Yeah. So I think it was pretty cool how Scott talked about he went to Tampa to go watch Julio work out. And not only did Scott say, wow, like these are workouts. Like it's not just, these aren't just some players running around and doing some agility drills. No, Julio is like pushing himself to the absolute limit, paired with Julio saying he felt like it was cool to have Scott see him work out. So then Julio could say, yeah, now Scott knows, like, I'm not just out here messing around. I'm not out here just soaking up the sunlight. I'm out here to put in the work to be an MVP. I thought that was pretty cool. And Logan Gilbert, he obviously met with too, because he's in the same state. Scott Servais deserves a ton of credit for doing this. And I'm sure there's other people in the organization that sat down and came up with some sort of this plan with him. But the fact Scott took all this time to go do that, like Scott's got an off season too. He's got a family. He's got things I'm sure he wants to do, but he knows how important this is. He knows how important it is to keep this group, one, on the same page, and two, keeping people with a positive energy. And do you think that doesn't play a factor into how hyped these guys are getting into spring training this year? No, I think it plays a factor.
And Scott, I think, put it perfectly here at the end of this article. You want them to trust that it's all going to work out in the end, and that when we go into spring training, we're going to have a good team. We're going to try and keep our core group intact and try to add to it. And I think we have it. I mean, that checks out. That's what they did. Core group checked in on during the offseason, kept together with a consistent message, and then add around it. And then everyone sits around and looks like it's like, well, we've got good team chemistry. We have a good lineup. We have the best pitching staff in the American League. I'm kind of liking this. I'm kind of liking this. I am. And it's just cool to see like Luis Castillo say like, I mean, he just sat down and like, no manager has done this for me before. Now Scott is always welcome in my house because he did this. Him and Pete Woodworth when they went down there. No one else bothered to come all the way to the DR to see me and sit in my boat, which also, by the way, side note, also called The Rock, which is pretty cool on Luis's part. But I'm sure it's a good fishing boat. But shout out to Scott Servais, man. You can always talk about external roster additions, but much like the current state of college football, it's also what you do with your current roster as well. And I wouldn't call it a total re-recruitment, but, getting everyone on the same page and delivering that message, oh, so important.
So in case people either haven't read the story or didn't totally follow along, the guys that they identified as the key pieces of this team, the leaders, who he went and met with, he met with JP and Ty France in Seattle. He met with Logan Gilbert and Julio in Florida. He met with Luis in the Dominican Republic. And with Cal, I think that one might have just been a phone call.
It might have been. So Cal was in the process of moving to Arizona at that point when he called him. So I think Cal's residence might have multiple residences, but it sounded like Cal was between spots at that point. But
so maybe it was, it might have been a logistics thing with Cal, but still, those are the guys I identified saying, these are the leaders of the team. Let's meet with them. Let's get everybody on the same page. And it's interesting too with JP, from what Divish reported in his story, JP, when they first sat down, it sounded like one, he had a lot of questions, and two, he said to himself, like, kind of like, what's going on? He said the same thing like a lot of us were saying when all the trades were happening, but it sounds like after the meeting was adjourned and he had more of an understanding of what was going to happen, he walked away in a lot better place, which is pretty cool.
And the thing that was brought up is that, JP, at least speaking from what Divish wrote, sometimes has a hard time trusting the organizations he's played with just because of the failures he endured as a top prospect coming up, and said like it just like the wording of it like that it kind of broke him and that he had a hard time trusting. So when stuff like this happens, like, well, this can't be happening around me right now. And he said it felt very refreshing to have Scott come in there and say, no, we're good. We're good, dude.
I think we've also learned, if anything we've learned about this offseason, we have learned JP and Ty are even closer friends than I realized. I knew those guys were friends, but they've been almost two peas in a pod all winter. Like they barely spend any time apart is how it seems. They're always together at the field in spring training. They're together at Driveline. They're seen hanging out during the winter. Like those guys are kind of inseparable.
Pretty cool. It's a pretty cool story to have. And, hopefully JP will be hitting him there at first base right in the mitt plenty of times this season.
I can't wait. All right, let's take a quick pause for just a second. We're going to talk to you guys about who? Our friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85, because we love to hang out over there because there's a million awesome things that you can do. You can go eat some food, have some great drinks. You want to play some pool. You want to watch some games. There's 22 TVs in the place. So it's really your one-stop shop for everything you need with a good sporting event with your friends. So if you're interested in that, head over there. And if you want some good drink specials, go during happy hour. It's from Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. It includes $3 domestic beers, $4 Manny's Blue Moons, $4 Mac and Jacks, $4 Wells, and $4 house wine. You can get all that and have an awesome time with your friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85 in Kirkland. I was a big fan of this conversation with Gabe Speier. I want to say, no, I can't rank any of these interviews, but another really, really, really good conversation with another Mariners reliever. Gabe is very real. He's down to earth. What I loved about this one is it felt very free flowing. And I think a lot of our conversations have had that, but I felt that especially with Gabe as the more we got into it, especially the second half of the conversation, I feel like it was the best way I can put it is it felt like three people just sitting and talking.
Well, I know why Lyle wants to rank this one as high as he possibly can, even though, again, we're not ranking, because we talked more about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on this one than I think we have yet. And I mean, that's the deal breaker. That's the deal breaker. What kind of bread are we using? Is it an Uncrustable? Like, a lot of decisions to be made here.
How that got into the conversation, we'll leave that for you guys to listen and find out. But yeah, admittedly, if you're going to make me take some truth serum, if one of many reasons I'd probably want to rank this interview with Gabe pretty high is, look, you're going to tee me up to talk about peanut butter and jelly. You're winning the key to my heart here. So shout out to you, Gabe. You didn't know it when you brought it up, but you just went way up the totem pole. No, but in all seriousness, really, really fun conversation. Like, yeah, this bullpen, I think everybody knows from afar that it's a very easy group of guys to root for. But I can say from the handful of guys in this bullpen we've gotten to talk to this winter, it goes from like an 8 or 8.5 in terms of a likable group to all the way to like a 9.5 or 10 in terms of, man, this is such a cool group of dudes who are genuinely friends out there and all combined to like dominate.
Tying it into the PB&J thing, I know how we got there because Gabe is a big nickname guy, and we throw around some nicknames. So that's a little nugget there in the interview that you're going to want to listen to. But we don't want to keep you any longer. Let's get to our interview with Gabe Speier.
All right, we've got Mariners left-handed reliever Gabe Speier on with us. There's only one way I can start this. You're a member of this bullpen. I'm starting with this. Babe Ruth, real or not real?
I saw that clip of you guys and Sauce talking about that. I think probably some of the legends and stories might not be real, but Babe Ruth as a human being, I think for sure is a real person.
Okay, what I'm picking up on this is most of this bullpen is open-minded to listening to this argument, but I'm getting the feeling that Sauce is very, very much on one side of this, and everybody else is like, well, we can listen to the argument, but it's not as definitive as he is.
Yeah, I mean, Sauce likes to joke around a lot, and I don't know how serious he is on the matter, but he loves to kind of stir the pot, and that's kind of something that he does, and it's great for camaraderie and the bullpen especially. And I think if you truly asked him, he would say he believes that Babe Ruth was real, but he, like I said, he loves to stir the pot and have his fun. And he loves to kind of like have those touchy conversations. So, I think he probably thinks Babe Ruth is real, but he loves to tell people that he's not, just to kind of stir the pot.
I will say,
was he trying to send you guys videos of that like thread of Babe Ruth videos that was on Twitter like a month ago?
Yeah. Me, him, and Topa, R.I.P. We're gonna miss him greatly, but
so wait,
we're all on we're on a group text, and we're always sending each other stuff like that. Like, who's the player that's like the red seat out at Fenway, that like the 7-foot home
Williams.
run, Ted Williams?
that was our next question. Yeah.
There's absolutely no shot that happened. We went out there and I think Sauce mentioned it, like they put a metal bat in Big Poppy's hands and he couldn't even get it close. I don't see how that could be possible.
So I think, okay, so this whole bullpen group is very definitive on that because Topa had the same answer, Sauce had the same answer. And I will say the Babe Ruth thing's a little more fluctuated, but I'll say you threw Sauce under the bus a little bit more than Topa did, because when we asked Justin this question, he just kind of gave his answer. He's like, you know what? Sauce is going to believe what he believes, but you're kind of like, oh, I think he's putting on a show. I think he's putting on a little bit of an act here when he talks about it.
It's not necessarily a show. I mean, it's just who he is. He loves to have those type of conversations, bring up kind of like the conspiracy theories, and he's just being himself. And he's, like I said, everybody loves him. He's awesome. He's one of my, really good friends in the game. And he just loves to have those conversations and kind of stir the pot a little bit.
So on the topic of Saucedo, then when he told you guys he got lost after the Kraken game you guys all went to, did you believe him or did you think he was full of crap?
Oh, no, that was 100%. So that's a true story. I 100% believe him. That was crazy. So we went to the Kraken playoff game. It was awesome. They won. It was like a super high scoring game. They won like 7-3 or something like that. And so great game. And then we walked back. I drove my truck. I took Topa and Sauce, and my truck had gotten broken into. So Sauce is like, oh, you got a lot on your plate. Like, I'm just going to Uber. And he orders his Uber, and like immediately after he ordered it, it died. And then the story came, and it's like one of the all-time stories, and I 100% believe him.
Did you guys follow the North Star home too?
Oh gosh. Yeah, he is, I guess you could consider him a wise man. So following the North Star got him home. It's just so funny because he's from the Seattle area. I mean, obviously we rely so much on our phones, and I would be in the same position if my phone died, but it's just funny because that happened, and he's also from Seattle.
Well, it wasn't like a 30-minute detour either. From what he explained to us, it was for like 5 hours. He couldn't figure out what he was trying to do. Yeah, and it's crazy. I mean, we had a good time at the game. I mean, I'm not going to say he was like, he was, he probably had a couple drinks. We all did. It was, we had a good team outing, and it was super unfortunate that happened to him, but it ended up being a great story. And I think
he ended up pitching the next day on like, just minimal sleep. And I think he did well. Like, and it's just a really great story.
What did people say the next day when this story got out, between what Scott or the coaching staff said or what the rest of the guys said? Like, did people say things along the lines of, what, you got lost in your own city, ?
Oh yeah. I mean, he got some crap for it for sure. But I mean, ultimately he was able to do his job the next day, and it was all good. But yeah, just that story, I think that's going to stick with Sauce for the rest of his career.
So, Gabe, you have been a lot of places before you finally established yourself with the Mariners this past season. You were in a lot of trades. Like, there was one very famous trade you were in, and I want to read this description of this trade, how they portrayed you, and I want you to react to what this article thought of, like, described you as part of this trade. The Shelby Miller trade, Dansby Swanson, Shelby Miller trade. Very, especially of us who's interact with a lot of Diamondbacks fans, not a very impactful trade for them, not in a good way. But you were included in that trade as well, and you were described in a Fangraphs article, Gabe, as, quote, "who is a player." Do you like that description of yourself?
I mean, yeah, no, that I've been overlooked a lot in my career, an undersized left-handed reliever. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, all of that has just fueled the fire for me throughout my whole career. And, they can say what they want. It's just noise. But, and also, at the time I was like a low A pitcher, so it is what it is. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say I like that now. But, at the same time, like, I've had a chip on my shoulder my whole career, and anybody that, wants to dish out, it's just helping me. So it's all good.
Well, that's good to hear. But so now that you're you're a established big leaguer, can you like look back at those trades and you're like, wow, like there's a lot of baseball history with my name in it?
Yeah, at the time going through all those trades, I was a minor league guy being involved in like some significant major league trades. So for me, it was really cool. I mean, getting traded for the first overall pick, I mean, not me, just me for him, but being involved in that was super cool. I mean, I was like a 19, 20-year-old kid being involved in these trades, and it was for me, it was super exciting. And bouncing around a lot, I wouldn't change it for the world. I mean, I've got to meet a lot of good people from a lot of different organizations, and it's been great. I wouldn't change my path to the big leagues at all. So it's been a roller coaster, but a good one.
Yeah, I guess for those who may not know, so it wasn't just the Shelby Miller, Dansby Swanson trade, but the other 3 times you were traded, one of them was to the Tigers for Yoenis Cespedes, one of them was to the Braves for Cameron Maybin, the other was for John Jay, and that was to the Royals. Like, so to that point, yeah, it's got to be kind of, at least in some way, while it's probably not fun to be traded, there's got to be something on the other end that says, well, there's always a team out there that wants me. There's somebody that likes what I bring. Like, is that a mindset you have?
Yeah, I always joke. I say everybody and nobody wants me. I mean, it's not easy to get traded. Thankfully, the majority, I think 3 of the 4 were during the off season, so it wasn't like I had to pack up and leave. But it definitely was tough at times, like feeling like, just getting comfortable in an organization, like making friends and getting comfortable with coaches and staff, and then feeling at home, and then getting shipped off somewhere else and kind of having to restart that. Like, that wasn't necessarily the easiest thing. But at the end of the day, where every team is playing the same game, it's not like the biggest deal in the world to me. And like I said, it's been great. I've had some great experiences with every organization I've been with. So, yeah.
Did one of those trades stick out more to you than the other one? The way it felt on you, the phone call you had, your relationship with the organization, any of that?
Yeah. Well, I would say the most excited I was being claimed by the Mariners. But as far as trades go, yeah, getting traded to the Diamondbacks and like that kind of like high profile trade was really cool. And having, the GM call me from the Diamondbacks saying, we're happy to have you. This trade wouldn't have happened without you. It could have just been words, but it definitely made me feel wanted. And And it is, when you get traded, that means the organization wants you, and it's a good feeling.
So let's piggyback off that a little bit. You said the most excited you've been of any of these acquisitions is when the Mariners claimed you last year. Mm-hmm. We talked to Topa and Sauce, a couple other guys who said when they got here and they had their first meeting or two with the team, with the pitching group, and they sat them down and said, hey, here's what you do really well. Here's what we want you to do. They talked about how they were just blown away. In fact, Sauce was saying Trent Thornton said the same thing. They were like, I've never had meetings like that. That was super cool. And I've never thought of it that way. When you had your first meeting with those guys, were you pretty impressed when you walked away from it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, pitching with Kansas City, I'm super thankful for Kansas City. They gave me the opportunity to pitch in the big leagues and live out my dream, but I couldn't really gain any traction there. I was kind of an up and down guy for them. And that year, I pitched well in the big leagues. I had like a 2-something in 20 innings, smaller sample size, but I felt I threw the ball well. And then I got sent down to AAA, and I couldn't get anybody out. And I had a really rough couple months in AAA, and I had legitimate thoughts of I might never pitch in the big leagues again. So when I was DFA'd and the Mariners claimed me, I was like, let's go. Not only am I getting another chance, but I'm getting another chance with a team that was just in the playoffs last year. This is awesome. And to answer your question about that first initial meeting with the Mariners, with Woody, he was just like, listen, we picked you up. I was expecting, hey, we want you to change the grip on your slider. We want you to change all this stuff. And it was the opposite. It was just, we picked you up because we really like what you bring to the table. We just need you to throw more strikes and attack hitters in a slightly different way. And hearing that just, gave me a bunch of confidence. Hey, these guys really just like what I have already. I don't need to change much. It's just maybe a shift in mentality or, attacking hitters. And that was really refreshing to hear. And it gave me a lot of confidence. And, I was able to take that confidence into last season and kind of run with it. So it was a lot of fun last year.
From stuff I've read and heard about the story of that first conversation, wasn't the question he asked you is he was asking you about your fastball usage, and you said you didn't really have an answer for it. And he's like, yeah. Hey, I really actually kind of like your sinker more. Throw it more, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, previously before the Mariners, I was almost strictly 4-seam slider to left-handed hitters. And, I've always been decent at getting left-handed hitters out, but he said, why don't you throw your sinker to lefties? And I was just like, well, because nobody's ever told me to do that. He's like, well, you need to do that. Because there was a small thing. I had thrown some sinkers to lefties, and he's like, everyone you've thrown, nobody's hit it hard. You've maybe given up one hit. This is what you need to do. And I was just like, why haven't I heard this before? And so, yeah, Woody pointed that out, and that was a big thing. I mean, I love throwing sinkers to lefties now. It's my favorite thing to do. So it's definitely helped.
Okay, I want to put a pin in your whole pitch arsenal thing, and I'll circle back to it in a minute or two. But when you started to have the success you did last year, did it ever resonate with you? And if it did, at what point did it start to resonate with you where you said, man, I'm having a really good year. Everything is clicking for me. Did you allow yourself to feel that way at all?
Yeah, I mean, people will always say you'll mention a stat to them and they'll be like, yeah, I didn't know that. I have a hard time believing that. I think people know what's going on and how they're doing. And yeah, I mean, I had some success in the big leagues with the Royals, but yeah, last year, that first month, I didn't give up a run the first month of the season. I was like, I can do this. I belong here. And yeah, so I kind of realized it quick in the first month, I'd say.
And it wasn't just your stuff, Gabe, that ticked up. It was the stat that lived in infamy last year for this pitching staff. It's throwing first pitch strikes. You were the guy, 78%. And the year before in Kansas City was 48%, I think, first pitch strikes, total polar opposites. What were you sort of, when they're trying to get you to throw more first pitch strikes, you're like, well, I don't want to be too predictable. Is that ever a pushback in that?
No, I as soon as it was, that's the Mariners pitching philosophy is dominate the zone and win the 0-0 and the 1-1 counts. And, they didn't just say that. They showed me the data to back it up. It's crazy. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's if you're in an 0-0 count and you throw ball one, the batting average is 350 in that count. And if you get strike one, it's 200. And then 1-1's even more so. It's like if you go to 2-1, it's like 380, and if you go to 1-2, it's like 180. And they just showed me the numbers, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like I need to be in these counts as often as possible. And I'm not Andres Munoz or Matt Brash. I don't throw 100. I do believe in my stuff. My dog's right here. I do believe in my stuff. I think I have really good stuff, but it's not, 100. So for me, I need to be in these counts as often as possible. And they told me that, and I just kind of took it and ran with it. So, yeah.
Speaking of stats and speaking of data, you may or may not know this or pay attention to this as two baseball nerds who always kind of dig through this stuff. Like we've seen this about you. You get guys to chase your pitches a lot. Like I'm talking like top of the league and chasing your pitches. Has that always been a part of your game, or is that something that's evolved too?
I think I have some swing and miss stuff, but I attribute the chase to the first pitch strike and getting ahead of hitters. Because, when you get strike one, you're on the offense and the hitter's on the defense. And then, when you throw ball one, vice versa. So, and I think, as the season went on, guys started to realize like, hey, this guy is going to throw you a lot of strikes. So guys were more aggressive, I'd say. And I was able to maybe get a little more chase out of the zone because of that.
And the rest of your arsenal, it sounds like it's evolving a little bit. You mentioned on the hot stove earlier this week that you're looking to add a cutter, been working on a cutter and a split change as well. I guess to start with the cutter, what does that pitch offer that your other pitches don't? What do you want to achieve with that?
It would just be another pitch to use against right-handed hitters. Both my fastballs, I throw a 4-2, they move arm side. And it would be, I think, really good to have something that's firm that moves glove side for right-handed hitters, kind of work the ball in on them. And then the changeup as well. They're both, I would say, they're kind of both still in, in the process of becoming part of the arsenal. I do believe in them, and I think that they're going to be good for me, but they were designed to be used mostly against right-handed hitters to just be a little more effective against righties.
What's the difference between a splitter and a split change?
I grip it like a splitter. I call it a split change because it's not a true splitter. It doesn't drop off the table like Logan Gilbert's does. The profile is more of a changeup. It moves more like a changeup. The grip is just a split. So it's not a true splitter. So I just call it a split change.
And is splitter judged in vertical movement? Like
I would say so. Yeah, I just, I don't know what the thresholds are for calling if it's a split change or a splitter. I think for me, I like calling it a split change because it's more of a mental thing for me. I'm not totally splitting the ball between my fingers. It's more of just kind of a gradual, more comfortable in my hand. I just spread it. And yeah, so I don't know if I just answered your question or not, but it's more for me to think more changeup on it than splitter.
So when you look at this bullpen group heading into 2024, I know you talked about earlier in the show that, it's really a shame to lose Topa. We thought the same thing. Like not only was he so good, but we really loved talking to Justin and he's just such a good dude and we loved watching him pitch. But all that being said, when you see a guy like Gregory Santos get added to this bullpen, there's got to be some excitement, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as soon as we traded for him, I watched some video of him throwing, and he's obviously electric. And Topa was too, but I think interchanging those two, I think we're going to be in a really good spot. With the big three, Munoz, Brash, and Santos, I think, and then, me and Sauce and some other guys, Thornton, behind him, I wouldn't want to hit against us. It's going to be a lot of fun this year, I think.
Now that the bullpen looks, for the most part, you have a pretty good idea what the bullpen's going to look like. Of the pitchers in that bullpen, if you were to take one pitch from one of them and add them to your arsenal, which one would it be?
Oh, gosh. there's so many. I mean, I think it's tough to argue with the Matt Brash slider. You've heard on lots of social media, hitters don't like that pitch. You see the swings that are taken on it. You're making Jose Ramirez, one of the best hitters in the league, fall over. I mean, I think it would be hard not to choose that.
What was your reaction when you saw that pitch for the first time in person?
I mean, it's just crazy to me how he grips it. He like tucks his finger. I've never seen anybody even hold a slider that way. And then how he's able to throw it as hard as he does, like 90, sometimes 91, maybe even 92. It's pretty amazing. And, you know, Brash, he's not like a massive dude. He's just super wiry. He's a really good athlete, and he gets down the mound faster than anybody I've ever seen. He's just super snappy athlete, and he's fun to watch.
If you were to step into the box against Matt Brash's slider, how many swings would you need to barrel one up?
Well, first off, I would probably be like Howie from Benchwarmers. I'd probably be in the very back far corner, just like closing my eyes. But I don't think I could hit. I mean, it would take 100 pitches, probably.
If you were well, off of Lyle's idea of bullpen hitting, if we're gonna make a starting lineup out of your bullpen hitting wise, how would you rank it? What would you be building?
I mean, I've talked to Sauce, and he says he wasn't a great hitter, so he might be out. No, I'm kidding, but no, I'd put him in there. But I don't know. Lots of the guys, you know, I actually have a minor league home run. I'm 2 for 9 in my professional career with a single and home run. The first swing I ever took in pro ball, I hit a home run. It's like one of my claim to fame moments. So I think I'd be in there. But
yep. Where was it? Was it like a good hitter's environment? Was the wind blowing out? What were you thinking? Or did you crank this thing?
I did not crank it. It wasn't. I hit it backside, so off Otaka. But the exit velo was like 90 miles an hour. The wind was howling, so it wasn't anywhere else. It was in Biloxi. Where's Biloxi? Where?
Mississippi?
Mississippi,
yes.
Okay.
Biloxi, Mississippi. Yeah, that was a highlight. I mean, I had a teammate who was left-handed as well who went backside home run like 3 at-bats, and then I did it. And he was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, you totally just discredited my home run. He wasn't too happy about it. But yeah, that's a cool moment. I actually was asking my teammates if I could use their bat, and all of them were like, absolutely not. So I went back into the clubhouse and grabbed like a pro stock wood bat, and all of them were like black or tan. And I was like, none of these are cool. And I pulled out this one, and it was like red. And I was like, oh, this one looks cool. And it was like a 34-inch bat, probably too much wood for me to be swinging. But yeah, so brand new bat, one swing, home run. So there's one mark on the bat, and I have that bat back home. It's like up on the mantle.
What it sounds like is you probably didn't even get to bat flip that.
No, I hit it. The right fielder started going back on it. I'm sorry, left fielder started going back on it. And so I thought double, you know, like he's going back on it and I got to go. And then the crowd, we were on the road. So the crowd was like, oh. So I was like, oh, he must have caught it. So I like slowed up. I like stopped at second base. And I like look over at my third base coach and he's like, dude, you hit a homer. And it was crazy. And I knew the catcher for the other team. So when I touched home plate, the catcher was like, actually Jacob Nottingham, who was a Mariner, was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, what the heck just happened? And so it was funny. But, yeah.
Do you remember who it was off? Like, was it off anybody that's in the big leagues now?
No, I don't think so. I'd have to go back and look. This was 2017, so this is kind of a while ago now. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head.
Okay, I want to tee TJ up for this question a little bit because I know he found it, but you've gotten pretty good at coining some nicknames over the last year, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been nicknamed the nickname guy.
So if we're gonna go through some here, Gabe, I want a little reasoning behind why you decided on some of these nicknames. So first of all, I think you named yourself, right? Lil Unit?
No, that was Saucedo named me.
Oh, okay.
Sauce and Topa named me that.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I obviously Randy Johnson is one of the best left-handed pitchers of all time. So it was, like kind of an honor to be named that. I thought that they were going to give me some, funny nickname, but yeah, it was kind of cool that they came up with that.
Paul, I'm going to say Paul Sewald because I think we all love Paul Sewald here on this podcast right now. Big Hinge.
Yeah, I came up with that because he's the closer, and I was kind of thinking like the big door. You close the door, and I was like, oh, there's hinges on doors, like the big hinge. So that's how I came up with that. And he calls me Lil Hinge. we still talk. He's a good friend of mine. But yeah, that's how I came up with that one.
I'm very intrigued by Matt Brash's Little Slab. That has something to do with Canadian bacon, I believe.
Yeah, that one kind of took a little weird turn. I was like, he's Canadian. What's like? What do I think of when I think of Canada? Canadian bacon. I was like, little bacon, and I was like, I guess a slab of bacon. Yeah, little slab. So that's how I came. That was kind of my thought process on that one.
And Saucedo's is just perfectly weird. Lil Queso.
Yeah, so Queso, he's Mexican, and his last name's Saucedo, Sauce. We call him Sauce. So I was like, Mexican sauce. Oh, Queso. So that's how I came with that one.
And then the last one I have here, Justin Topa's was Big Loaf.
That one has no connection to anything. I was like rattling off some nicknames for Tope. I couldn't really come up with anything. I was kind of having a tough time with his, and I kind of just blurted out Big Loaf, and I got a reaction from everybody. Everybody kind of started laughing and thought it was a good one. And so that's how it stuck, is just because of the reaction I got when I said it. But Big Loaf has nothing to do with Justin Topa. It was just kind of a funny name that everyone laughed at.
Do we got any other ideas for some nicknames this year?
Yeah, I don't, right now. I'm going to have to sit down and think on it. I got to get, Munoz still doesn't have one. And obviously Santos is going to need one. But yeah, so I'm going to have to think on that and come up with some good ones.
That'll be a pretty good follow-up question with you at some point when we say, hey, maybe it's mid-season or something, and we ask you, well, these guys have nicknames yet? Because I'll be interested to know. Those are two guys who could have some pretty unique nicknames, so I'm looking forward to hearing.
You guys definitely come back to me on that. I'll try to come up with something good.
Yeah, Gabe, So when Lyle comes and finds you on the field during the regular season, you should have one for him as well.
Okay. I could do that.
For whatever.
You want one too, TJ?
I'll take one, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm giving you a head start here, Gabe. Maybe I am. I get told by a lot of people I look like Pete Davidson, so maybe that's a head start.
Okay.
So if you need one.
I was thinking that
helps.
Lil PB&J.
I do eat a lot of PB&Js for whatever that's worth.
Uncrustables, or do you make your own?
I make my own. Uncrustables are good, but I feel like I have a little bit more, a little bit less guilt if I don't go to the store and buy the Uncrustables. If I actually make them at home, there's a sense of like, all right, it's a tad little bit healthier, even though it's probably like very marginal. So just to make myself feel a little better, I make them at home.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be a PB&J. I lived off those in the minor leagues, and I definitely got sick of them at some point, but I still love them.
Were you an Uncrustables guy, or did you make them?
If they have them, like I have never like bought any, but sometimes they'll have them in the clubhouse, and it's a good little snack.
I like that. Okay,
yeah.
I've got one final question for you before we kind of get to our like wrap up subject with you, which is I don't know if you've ever heard this. I had this thought before I ever talked to you, so I'm curious if you've ever heard it from anybody else, but. Not just when you're on the mound, but when you're walking around, maybe it's something about you being at the field. Does anybody ever tell you you've got like a death stare on you most of the time? Like you're just kind of laser focused? You ever heard that?
No, that's the first time I've heard that, but it makes sense. I mean, I have these kind of like squinty eyes that kind of maybe portray that kind of resting, not so nice face. But yeah, no, I've never been told that, but I think it makes sense. I kind of have that scowl
Uh-huh.
about me, maybe. But yeah, I like to think of myself as a mellow, nice guy. But yeah, definitely when I'm out there, I turn into a different person. I mean, I, I'm gonna do everything I can to get you out, and I have an intensity behind it. But off the field, I'm a pretty mellow guy.
Well, so that's what I was going to get at. And I know Logan Gilbert's like that too, where he's super nice off the field, but when he gets on the mound, he looks like he's just going to, want to tear you right apart. But just a little funny story. Hopefully we're in the trust tree here. But I remember when we talked to you for the first time, I think TJ and I were both there together, and we went up to you. And previously I had thought to myself, I think I want to let Speier be. This guy looks like he would just drill a hole right through me with his eyes if I talked to him, because you always look laser focused. And then we went up to him. I think it was TJ that talked to you. And once we were done and once we had talked and all, I think I turned to him and was like, oh yeah, he was pretty cool. He was super nice. I was like, that's why you don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, I've been, treated, everybody has, you get treated a certain way and it doesn't feel good. And I really try to pride myself on being a nice human being. And I think it takes more effort to be mean than it does to be nice. It's just so easy to be nice to people.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense to me when people are like that. And so, I've been through some situations where, in AAA, you see guys get sent down and they're super salty and they don't talk to anybody. They're always in a bad mood. And I always told myself I'm never going to be that guy. It's not fun to be around. And I've been up and down, and I always try to be nice to everybody. There's just no reason at all to be mean ever. So.
Well, I think a lot of people can appreciate that. I'd like to speak for the both of us when I say I think we try our best to both do that. Or maybe you feel differently, TJ. Maybe you like to be mean.
No, I'm pretty nice.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm messing.
I mean, obviously there are circumstances, I have a switch,
Yeah.
It is hard to flip, but I do have.
That's fair. Well, it seems like for the most part you use it when you're on the mound, which is probably just about the best place you can use it. So we appreciate
absolutely.
that. Okay, so we wrap up these interviews with a lot of the players with 5 kind of fun questions to let fans get to know you a little bit better. And we'll start with the first one, which is your go-to pregame and postgame meal is what?
Ooh, I love carbs. I love bread and pasta and all that kind of stuff, pre and post game. So anything that involves carbs. Like I said, pasta, pizza, stuff like that.
Is there a key though to because you guys got to wait around for 6 innings before you get into the game? Where do you find the balance of not falling asleep?
Yeah, that's where pre-workout comes into play. I do have a routine of I take my pre-workout in the 3rd or 4th inning, kind of depending on how the starter's doing and if I might have to go in a little earlier or later. But yeah, lots of caffeine. And we do have a snack bag out in the bullpen, so definitely everybody's partaking in that. So yeah, just snacking and lots of caffeine.
Any smelling salts?
Topa used to do that, and I would do that sometimes, if I was feeling a little extra tired or whatnot. And they do help. I feel that initial kick of a smelling salt really gets you, but it wears off pretty fast. So I don't know how useful it is, but I mean, if somebody has it, I'll do it.
Well, maybe that's better suited for your brother-in-law, who's the 49ers punter, Mitch Wishnowsky. Because that's short, so you could do it right before you punt and then pin it right inside the 5.
Yeah, I could hide one in my glove or something.
There you go.
No, I'm pretty good with my routine. I'm happy with it. So, but like I said, if somebody has it, can't hurt to try.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, Gabe. Your 3 favorite TV shows ever?
Ever? Ooh. I've watched Breaking Bad 2 times through. Love that one. That's probably at the top of the list. Sons of Anarchy. Then watched it for the first time. I think I was in high school, and I've watched it a few more times. I was really into that one. And then one that me and my wife love is How I Met Your Mother. That's a good one. Yeah, so I'd say those 3.
Okay, that's a pretty good balance of shows.
We've
Breaking Bad.
I'll say we've gotten Breaking Bad almost every single time. Almost.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if I had to add a fourth, let's see. Friday Night Lights. It's a really good one. It's another one I watched with my wife. That one is really good.
Who's your favorite character in the show? I was always a Tim Riggins guy.
Oh yeah, Tim Riggins. Yeah, he's easily takes the cake.
Did you guys not think that show was corny?
No.
I mean, yeah. Maybe a little, but sometimes corny's good, you know?
Yeah.
Like Cobra Kai, that show.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's as corny as it gets, but yeah, it's still excellent.
It's watchable, and it's like one of those shows you can kind of have on the background that definitely has its place. So,
okay, I will say the corny part of Friday Night Lights. My brother talks about this nonstop, especially when we used to watch it. He used to say the play calling of these games was ridiculous. It's like, here's a little bubble pass. He's going to rip it 78 yards for a touchdown, so to speak. And he's like, I can't buy that.
Think the show is more about the drama than the play on the field for sure. But I mean, it sucks you in for whatever reason. I mean, that's a show I put on. Like my parents love it. Like everyone I've talked to has said that they love it. So
yeah. Okay. Third question for you is best and worst baseball road trip you've ever made. This can include the minors.
I mean, best. I'll start with the best. I mean, flying as a major league player on chartered flights it doesn't get any better. I mean, the Seattle's plane is really nice. Every seat in that plane is like better than first class. It's you can't beat it. It's really nice. I know Seattle is kind of up in the top corner and the flights are longer for us, but I mean, you're flying private and it's really nice. So those are definitely the best. And worst was probably in the Texas League when I was with the Royals, and our team was in Arkansas, just like the Travelers are, but we were in Northwest Arkansas. And that trip down to like Corpus Christi, Texas, and when you go and play those Texas teams, it's like a 14-hour bus ride, and you do it on an off day too, so your off day is gone. And sometimes we'd get sleeper buses where like there's like bunk beds on the bus, which was like okay, but sometimes we wouldn't. So I definitely say those 14-hour bus rides without a sleeper bus, definitely the worst.
Is any MLB city your favorite to actually go to? The flights do sound great.
Yeah, I mean, they're nice, and you know, we got meals on the flight. I mean, it's nice. Any city. I mean, I love playing in Seattle. That's my number one for sure. But if I were to choose anything else, I mean, playing in New York is awesome. I mean, just all the history with the Yankees and all that, and their stadium's, you know, pretty new, and it's really nice. The food that they serve there is awesome. I had a really good experience there. So I'd say that, yeah, New York.
Okay, Gabe, next question. Your favorite all-time baseball player?
This one's easy for me. I grew up a huge Giants fan in San Francisco, and I grew up when Barry Bonds was doing his thing, so it's like hands down Barry Bonds.
Okay, so it sounds like all three of us can agree on this show then. He should be a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's the best. He's the best player ever.
Yeah,
yes. Far.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the whole, you know, PED thing, but it's also hard to argue that everybody was, it seems like so much of the league was doing it at that time. And I think he gets a little more backlash because of what he was doing, you know, like all the home runs but I mean, not just his hitting, like he's got however many gold gloves and however many stolen bases, like he all around is like the clear best player ever. The whole 7 MVPs, the next guy's got 3, like he's unbelievable.
Like the home run, but the plate discipline, like was better than his power. Yeah,
I mean, if you really think about it, he probably got one good pitch to hit a game.
Yeah.
Maybe not even. And he just never missed. It's just crazy how he was able to put up the numbers he did, and half the league wasn't even pitching to him.
Yeah.
So, and he was playing in, at the time, Pac Bell, which is Oracle now, but that is not a good park for a left-handed hitter. So he's just a freak.
No. Imagine if he had played in Yankee Stadium for his home park.
I know.
Okay.
And yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, last one we've got for you. If you weren't playing baseball, what do you think you'd be doing?
I mean, I've always said a firefighter, but realistically, I would probably be involved in the game some way, shape, or form, either, working at a baseball facility, helping high school kids get better, or coaching at a college or something like that. I love baseball so much that I would probably be involved in the game in some way, would be my best guess.
So coaching over something like the front office.
I mean, that, intrigues me as well. I think that would be more up my alley. I really do like, kind of the analytical part of the game, and it's become so big, and it's helped me in my career, and if, it would be a lot of fun to be on that side of things.
Well, never say never, right? When eventually, a long time from now, when your pitching career is over, you never know.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's helped that I've pitched kind of in this era where analytics have, become a much bigger part of the game. And, I think it's going to continue to grow even more so. And so, yeah, I think that probably helps. And I would definitely be open to doing something like that.
That's really cool. It really is. Gabe, this has been awesome. Like, we've had a blast talking to you over the last 40 minutes or so. We're thrilled that you're back in Arizona and gearing up for another big year, and we can't wait to watch you have another big year. So we appreciate all the time.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure and a lot of fun for me too.
Fantastic conversation with Mariners reliever Gabe Speier. Before we wrap up the show, a word from BetterHelp. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or you're just a human who lives in this world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you with a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in our description. It's betterhelp.com/marinelayerpod. That's betterhelp.com/marinelayerpod. Clicking the link helps support this podcast, but also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/marinelayerpod.
That'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to listen to the full form podcast, do so wherever you get your audio pods. Download our episodes. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave a written review too. Let us know what you think. All feedback is appreciated, and you're doing us a big favor. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. That big red subscribe button. Just take 1 second, 2 seconds to just hit it. Another big solid you guys do for us if you just hit subscribe. And then check us out on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.